So I was confused. Is this can't be live right now then, or this people be turning off the radio? What is it?
I think it's pretty good radio. Like three bozos trying to figure out Wi-Fi for half an hour.
Yeah, you said it, brother. Three bozos. Welcome to the Three Bozos Radio Hour Wi-Fi special. Son of a bitch. I shouldn't say that after live, but yeah. Should we still be recording on our phones or
Yeah.
I'm still rolling here. I think all this is gold. I think we're going to want to keep all this in.
I think you're probably right about that. Okay, well, it's been great talking to you guys. Love your work. Thank you so much.
Wait, are you wrapping it up? Wait, hold on. Okay.
This is Mark Lee Morrison, and today on the 72nd episode of Low Profile, Phil Elverum of the Microphones and Mount Eerie returns to the show with audio engineer Matt Fenton. They're discussing the first record by another artist that Phil produced for his label, PW Elverum and Sun, back in 2006. The band was called Peace, a rough-around-the-edges combo from Kamloops, British Columbia. And as people say, it was a different time, and the album, called On Earth, has not particularly aged well. Just in time for the 17th anniversary deluxe vinyl reissue, here is the story of recording the cult classic record, Peace on Earth. We decided to begin with Phil and how he discovered the band.
Yeah, you could say that. I mean, discovered is like a loaded word, but with the, has like implications of old style music industry impresarios. But yeah, more or less, I got a demo from them, and I used to get a lot of demos. And that one had this song Hamburgers that it was like pretty amazing, and it just like made me pay attention. And so I saw them. I was like in this weird kind of transitional or confused era with my label project, which mostly is just me putting out my own stuff. But I thought, maybe I could be a real label and put out other people's music. And this song Hamburgers was so weird and good. And I was like, who's this band? And so I saw them. They were actually called Squad Boys, but the demo was like under Squad Boys, and it was 3 tracks. And it was sort of like me experimenting in being a real label. So yeah, discovered is the appropriate word, I guess. It was the traditional method. Like, band sends a demo to a label says, yes, you got the goods, and like go into a studio to record an album, and it ultimately ended up pretty bad. But yeah, that's how it started. They played at the Brown Lantern, which is the bar in Anacortes, and I lived there. I didn't go to the Brown Lantern. I like happened to be walking by, and this like ruckus was happening in there. It was crazy. These 5 guys, 2 bass players, and it was just like this cacophony and like it's a bar, or open mic at a bar. People sometimes get crazy, but this. I was still like walking by because I had a studio space nearby, like the next block down, commercial.
Matt, what's your relationship to the group?
Well, not super close. I'm from South Bay, San Jose area, and I kind of followed a couple friends up to Wazoo and Pullman, and was taking some music stuff there, and then I ended up doing sound at this place called the Crow's Nest in Spokane. Anyway, long story short, I ended up following some other friends up to Bellingham area, and then we started going to Anacortes for whatever reason, and I was kind of hanging out at the time, sort of trying to do sound. There's this place, Department of Safety, and I ended up meeting Phil, and I was still kind of getting my feet wet, and he helped me with getting some used gear, and I was working like 1 or 2 days at this place, The Business, and then Phil and I can't even remember what we were working on, Phil, but he was helping me kind of learn how to engineer records, and we worked on 1 or 2 Mount Eerie things, maybe who was that? Carl, one of the Carl things, and is that right, Phil?
That sounds right. So wait, did you live at the Department of Safety, or were you commuting from Bellingham? I can't remember.
Kind of both. It's funny you say transitional time. I was kind of back and forth, and I would crash there a little bit, got to know some people. There's a guy, Kevin, there who's doing sound at shows. He helped me out too. Anyway, long story short, but building up to the Squad Boys stuff, I just remember that you were really excited about the demo, and then you mentioned going to see them. I think we actually went up twice. I know I saw them twice because we went up to Vancouver to see them play, and that's kind of like how I got connected, how I met them.
Yeah, that was actually the second time I saw them, because they did play at the Brown Lantern in Anacortes just kind of randomly. I don't think they knew I was located there, because they sent their demo. I got their demo, and the demo was sick. That's the thing. I know we'll get to this. I don't want to jump too far ahead in the story, but what's kind of, I don't know. What always just kind of, I don't know if I was going to say it cracked me up, but I don't even know if it was funny at the time. But I think, Phil, you can speak to this more too. But it was like the band. I almost felt like it was a prank, honestly. Like the band that showed up in the studio, it was like, I mean, wouldn't you say it was like nothing like the shows we saw? It was certainly nothing like the frickin' demo. Like, I know. Well, and then also the album that we ended up making in Fort Lauderdale was so different than their live presence. I mean, a lot of that was because of the Florida musicians we used, and how little of the Griggs brothers and how little of their performing we ended up keeping on the session.
I mean, the demo, I remember we played it for some people who thought it was like Neutral Milk Hotel or Elf Power. So, like, it kind of had that it had like magic to it. Like Athens, like noise rock, and it just I just remember the show was super cool. And then, I didn't even know you were thinking of working with them until I don't know when that came into play, but I just remember it was just like seeing the show. It was a kick-ass show.
If you need somebody to thrill you, I'll thrill you, I'll thrill you, I'll thrill you, I'll thrill you. If you need somebody to kill you, I'll kill you, I'll kill you, I'll kill you, I'll kill you. We're all coming out.
And anyway, I stopped in and I saw them, and they were playing a version of Hamburgers, and I was like, what the hell? Is this that tape I have that I was listening to? But we didn't actually connect that night. So I did see them, but Matt, I think that was before you started being in Anacortes. That would have been early or mid 06.
Yeah, I had no idea about that show. I just remember initially going to the Vancouver thing. I think I was interested because there was some, I don't know if it was what was it called, Superconductor or Zumpanos, one of those like AC Newman new pornographer bands was playing, and Squad Boy or Squad Boys was on the bill.
I don't really even remember where that show was.
Yeah, well, I'm sure Markley has more questions. We could talk about we could talk about the good old days for a whole other podcast. But anyway, in in answer to your original point, that's how I got involved with Phil and the band.
Phil, you produced, right?
Well, yeah. So that's jumping ahead a little bit. That's jumping ahead to, we traveled to Florida to record their album, and Matt came with me to sort of help out because he was like audio friend. I don't know what title.
I got the impression too, Phil. I got the impression too at the 11th hour. You were kind of like, do I want to, like, A, why am I doing this in Florida? B, I need someone. We weren't even great friends. We probably knew each other, 15 months at that point. But I got the impression, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I got the impression you're kind of like, I need someone on my team to be there with this Canadian band, basically.
Yeah. Definitely.
Like, obviously, I was there to plug in cables, and I, like, in direct answer to your question, Mark Lee, it was basically like engineering the album. But I think on a social level and maybe even an emotional level, I got the impression from you, Phil, it was like, okay, what did I just get myself into? Am I really doing this? I can't just be solo in the studio with these guys I don't even really know.
It was a weird time for me. I kind of lost sense of who I am, what my project is. I was like, oh, maybe I could be a record label. Ooh, maybe I should sign someone. Maybe we should go to a quote-unquote real studio. Like, all these moves that were drastically different than my usual way of doing things. I just thought it seemed like something could be made of this. These guys that had this sort of like socially conscious, like really vibey new thing, like I had never heard of. This music.
That's so true, because like the only other song I really remember aside from Hamburgers is the only song that was actually from that version of the band that I think ended up we recorded in Florida, which was the Calling All My People song, which I thought was fantastic.
Listen, this is a call to my people. Yeah, the time is now, the places. Yeah, this is a call to my people. The time is now, the places. Yeah, so I'm calling all the people in the world. Calling all the people in the world. Calling all the people in the world.
It had a positive message. Yeah, it's like a little bit of a Bob Marley.
Yeah, but the thing is, when we saw them in Van, it was so different from the record version. I can't stress that enough to people. It sounds like I'm just, I got rosy glasses on because it was almost 20 years ago, but it's like they were such a cool band. I mean, it was, like you said, the two bass players, it was like really driving and really just like... Yeah. Vocals had distortion. It was like psych rock, indie. It was just really like cool.
Beach Boys thing too, with the three brothers, like the yeah.
Anyway,
I didn't realize it was a family unit. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, Danny, Keith, and Gus were the Griggs, not triplets. They were not, they were different ages. And then I was unclear if Scoop was a member of the family or like a cousin or uncle or something, and then this guy BK Broiler or Michael was a friend of theirs, a Vancouver or Kamloops guy, I guess. They're from Kamloops originally. So
Kamloops,
yeah, we saw
British Columbia, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, I think something might have like to explain that difference, that transformation between what we saw in Vancouver and on the demo, and then to what ended up on the like final CD. I maybe something happened to them when they were like traveling to Florida, because Matt, you and I flew and met them there, but I'm pretty sure they drove. I don't know if they drove all together or what, but like that's like a whole continent odyssey that they went on. So by the time we're in Fort Lauderdale, the vibe was different. Like all the positivity was sort of undermined by the. Can we swear on this? We live?
Please.
Going out live?
Swear.
Okay.
Yeah.
All the effing, like fudging, kill you. All fudging, kill you.
Right.
That yeah.
Counterintuitive to a lot of the but I mean, they're definitely still. It seems very passionate. It comes up a lot.
It's a little bit unhinged. It's like a passion that starts off positive and then like, I love you, I love you, I love you, I hate you. That kind of like unhinged, flailing passion. That's sort of the energy that we were working with in Fort Lauderdale.
I just want to back up a sec because I don't want to play the part of interviewer here where I'm supposed to share the history myself, but this was a thing I never actually knew, Phil. Like, what when you bought me the plane ticket, I was like, cool, I'll go. Like, I was all of 23 at the time or whatever, but it's like, why Florida? Was that what the band wanted to do, or was that part of you being like, or did you have family down there? Like, why didn't we just do it like in Anacortes or even Vancouver, or if you want to change the scenery, why not like Portland or San Fran? Go back to my stomping grounds. I was always curious about that.
All good points, Matt.
Can I
2020?
I mean, I would speculate that the sunshine in Florida was a big part of the sound of that record.
Oh,
good point. Yeah,
that's
you
interesting.
can kind of hear it. I mean, definitely Squad Boys wanted that.
And they had the money. They could have. I mean, you guys are probably still like sitting pretty from the paycheck from that. They had that piece.
Far from it, Mark Lee. No, it was the money part of this. I don't want to like get too revealing about it, but it was bad. I lost a lot.
But they had that Count Chocula money.
Oh, that was a different thing. That was sort of an unrelated, non-compensated situation.
Oh,
but
okay.
To back up just a sec, I'm pretty sure like the choice of Florida was, it's all kind of wrapped up in my self-delusion of like, oh, maybe I could be a real label. And this band was like, we have a studio we've chosen in Florida, and
okay, so that came from them. They knew them. They knew the studio, yeah.
And they were driving out, and I set up some shows for myself, I think during the sessions or like immediately before or after.
Oh, that's right.
I did, I think it was Wayward Council in Gainesville, and can't remember the name of that place in Panama City, but I did a couple of Florida shows. Jeff lodged in, and anyway, the all the pumpers that put on the shows back then, for me, that's sort of how I made it make sense for myself, was setting up a little mini tour around it and sort of doing my own thing.
No, I remember
sessions.
that. I remember that. I think part of it too was they did something in Ocala called, like, again, this is 20 years, but do you remember that? It was something like Orange Juice Jam or Sun Jam. Do you remember this? Like they were. I remember it because they actually didn't come the first day in the studio, because remember, that's when we recorded one of my songs, because remember I was doing the Radar Syndicate project at the time. So do you remember this, Phil?
Oh yeah.
I think that was part of it, that they had leveraged booking some sort of, I can't believe it was anything big, but they had some sort of festival in Ocala, Florida, I think, like Sunfest or Beach Bums, or it was something.
No, I think you were right. It was like an orange juice. I think it was like a sponsored Tropicana something. I actually don't think they got paid, or I think they had to pay to play it.
But you're right. I think there were like a couple things that came together that made the Florida thing what it was.
Right. Yeah, and we did that session to sort of warm up the studio, Radar Syndicate, day one. And then they showed up, or three of them showed up for that second day of recording. I'm so glad that we got the percussionists and that bass player, the session bass player, because I don't know, work would have gone so slowly, and it was not cheap to be in that studio. And they were living, I think, in their van that they drove across the country in, but yeah, you and I flew in, so we had hotel rooms and we're living like civilized adults. But
They
yeah.
They had a pretty big following, though, right? Like, kind of like
It seemed like they were
Grateful
going
Dead-ish vibe.
Ish.
Like,
That's
I
how
want to go. I want to go that far. I remember the shows in Van were pretty poppin'. But although who knows the scope of it, but yeah, I don't know if I'd go as far as the Dead. That's big leagues.
well, I mean,
they carried themselves as if they had a lot of followers.
Yeah.
I mean, naming your band Squad Boys sort of implies a squad, but they didn't really have the actual fans. That's maybe part of why I was like, ooh, maybe something could be made of this, because they had this sort of they carried themselves with this sort of like intensity and almost like it's loaded to say, but like a Bob Marley, like I'm going to change the world, I'm going to start a new religion.
yeah.
Heaviness. So, yeah. In hindsight, it looks a lot different. It almost seems like borderline humorous in hindsight, but at the time it just felt like, wow.
If you need somebody to love you, I'm coming up. If you need somebody to thrill you, I'm coming up. I'm coming up. It's been a long, long time. I'm coming up. And you've been on my mind. I'm coming up. I'm coming up.
When I first saw them, they kind of had this like Incubus, Linkin Park, kind of 21 Pilots,
Classic
Bizkit,
rock.
of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, like classic rock, like the original like Cottonmouth Kings, Deftones, kind of Papa Roach stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, that's what they tried to do in the studio. I can't stress this enough, but when we saw them, it was more like this. I don't know if your listeners know, like Olivia Tremor Control. I'm dating myself here, but Sunshine Fix, like that kind of. There is this
Sure.
label, Elephant 7 out of Athens, Georgia, that was just doing it back then.
But they upgraded?
And
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
well, they had that. They had that sort of culty Athens sort of B-52s vibe a little bit, but with like a Cypress Hill twist, a little bit of a like aggressive, I'm going to open your mind whether you want me to or not kind of.
Well, Markley, it's interesting you mention like Crazy Town, because I think my journey with this band, is kind of, I would say, wrong place at the right time, if you get me. But I think my emotional journey was like seeing them in Van. I loved it. It had this kind of like folk implosion. It was so cool. And then after the first day, which was the second day in Florida, I remember Phil and we were staying at, I think, a Wyndham, and we were sharing a room. And I just remember that after that first day, I don't know if you remember this, Phil, but I just remember being like, what the hell? Like, it just like, it was a different band.
Yeah.
I almost thought it was like we were getting punked or something. And then I think my last rung on the journey was sort of this acceptance of like, Phil flew me down here to engineer this. And that's, getting back to Markley, your comment about Crazy Town, I was like, okay, these new songs, they do not sound like this band that reminded me of like, early
R.E.M.
Dinosaur Jr. or something. Yeah, this sounds more like stuff I would never listen to, like Buck Cherry or Good Charlotte, or, it just sounded like radio, pop rap crap. Excuse my language, but
Oh, my God. I can bleep that out. It's okay.
But I was just like, Phil brought me down here. He bought a ticket. I have a job to do. So like, if I can see a silver lining for any of this, at least the songs are catchy. You know, like let's try to make them so you could hear them on the radio next to your Bare Naked Ladies, next to your Eiffel 65s. You know,
except for the swearing. I mean,
well, that was terrible. Yeah, that was terrible.
They were like pursuing the parental advisory sticker. It was almost like they were trying to sabotage my hopes for them and trying to like drain the label.
It was
finances.
so immature. It was so immature. It was so offensive. I mean, frankly, there's misogynistic stuff on there. It's just a lot of it rubbed me the wrong way, honestly. It just and you take a great I'm doing air quotes if your listeners could see me now, but they took a great song, or at least a catchy hook for like a song like Everything's Looking Good in the Summertime. If your listeners are familiar with that track, I think was it the first track on the album, Phil?
Yeah. It's track one.
But you take a song like that and then they're cussing on it, and I didn't get what they were going for, and it frankly, excuse my language, it pissed me off.
You can bleep that, right?
Hey, this is Markley. Low Profile is made possible first and foremost by you and listeners like you who support this show via patreon.com/lowprofile. For about the cost of a cup of coffee a month, you'll get extra things like unedited interviews, little things sent out in the mail here and there, advance releases of episodes, and surprises. So if you'd like to help support the show, that again is patreon.com/lowprofile. Also, thanks to in-kind support from these local Olympia businesses: Schwartz's Deli, Old School Pizzeria, Rainy Day Records, San Francisco Street Bakery, and Schurler Easy Premium Shitty American Lager from the Three Magnets Brewing Company. If you're a fan of Phil Elverum and his music, and you haven't heard it yet, after this, check out episode 28 with the microphones.
Summer, summer, summertime. Here comes the summer, you know. Here comes the summer. Here comes the summer. Here comes the summer. Summer, summer, summertime. Here comes the summer, you know. Here comes the summer. Here comes the summer. Here comes the summer. Everything is looking good in the summer. Everything is looking good in the summer. Everything is looking good. Summer and the Cajun food too. You fuck with my summer and I'll fucking kill you. We go on, diggy, on, diggy, on, diggy, diggy, on, diggy, on. I'll fucking kill you. Everything is looking good in the summertime. Everything is looking good in the summer. Everything is looking good in the summer. Everything is looking good in the
What was their demeanor like in the studio? Did you ever fear for your life, or were they just having a good time? I mean, it's hard to gauge. Like,
To me, it didn't feel like dangerous in that way. It felt more dangerous in like a existential way, in like a financial, like
Probably felt dangerous to your bank account, Phil.
Yeah, exactly. I could just like see them in the studio, the hours ticking by, like the flailing, the creative flailing of trying out things. You remember that whole harpsichord episode with them renting a harpsichord from having it trucked up from Miami?
I mean, Phil, at least that was musical. I mean, my impression is Lake Havasu, Spring Break. I mean, forget about it. It was hacky sacks. It was devil sticks. It was Pepsi.
Yeah.
It was just they were in shorts. It was a party for them. I think these are young kids who, hell, they were even younger than me at the time. I think.
Think they were? Do you know that they were? The youngest one was 35 when we were recording.
No, that's BS.
I'm serious.
That's BS. Don't prank me on air, Phil. That's
I'm
BS.
serious, Matt. I think some people like you just carry themselves with a maturity, and some people don't. These guys were lost in life.
Well,
I can see now.
I plead the fifth on that, but point being, at least when they were, you know, as hard as it was to get good takes out of these jokers, like at least it was musical. I'm talking about the first 3 days. It was Devil Sticks. It was, you know, BMX. It was just, these were guys' first trip to America. I don't care if you're 23 or 123. These guys were just, they were loving it. And they were goofing off, and I could just see you were thinking, there goes another 500, there goes another 500, there goes another 500.
Point, the intro to Wash Away the Pain, Biggie Biggie.
Yeah.
The Paul Simon Graceland intro, you know, that whole thing, that little snippet cost so much money to get that church choir to do, that was like actually from Africa. That was so intense to fly them in, to put them up, to feed them, to like source ingredients. That the whole, like, Matt, I'm so glad you were there, because I couldn't have, that episode alone, I couldn't have gone through that.
Hoom-de-dot, 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 biggie, biggie. Hoom-de-dot, 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 biggie, biggie. Hoom-de-dot, 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 biggie, biggie. Hoom-de-dot, hoom-de-dot, hoom-de-dot. Now Biggie Biggie wants to wash away the pain from the voices in my head. I love you every day, just like my mother always said. Tomorrow, yesterday, the bird is in the sky. I wanna feel the pain, so I'm stabbing you in the eye. Oh, you wash away the pain from the voices in my head. You wash away the pain from my life, my dreams. Now Biggie Biggie, who is taking off the mask to complete the task beneath the beauty of the trees and the beauty of the weed. You wash away the pain from the voices in my head. You wash away the pain from my life, my dreams, my face, from everything, yeah. I wanna say it to you.
I mean, we could go through the album, every little snippet in every track. It's a short album. It's, what is it, 17 minutes?
Something like
8
that.
tracks?
Yeah.
Yeah, and ultimately, it barely came out because I just couldn't afford to properly release it. So, financially, it was a misstep. And, yeah, I learned. It was a learning experience, to put it mildly.
Now, I remember you telling me once that Scoop looked you right in the eye every time he said, "I'm gonna fucking kill you," in the studio.
Yes. Yeah. He did, which...
Yeah.
Yeah. It didn't feel good.
No.
It felt real. It felt real.
It's a lot of pressure. Was Scoop in the group when you saw them originally, when they were doing the more kind of a psychedelic rock thing?
He was. I don't...
But
Matt,
no rap.
do you remember...
They didn't
which
have
one?
the rap thing. That was...
BK?
No, I can't. Yeah, I can't stress that enough. Like that, I just. Yeah, no rap at the time when we first saw him.
Well, I think BK Broiler was there. Was along. He was like a roadie or something when we saw them in Vancouver. I don't remember if he was at the Brown Lantern, but it was a different kind of music. He was just like a friend of theirs from Kamloops, and in Florida he was like, my name is no longer Michael de la Fontaine. My name is BK Broiler. I am a rapper, and I am the heart of this band. And it was just like he had taken over, kind of. Maybe that explains the sort of shift in ethos.
In tone.
It just.
Yeah.
it felt like such a crazy prank. I just, yeah, it was so weird. Phil, I know you have your feelings about it. I know I can't believe anyone wants to even talk about this stuff, but it just like,
it's good music. I mean,
yeah,
I feel like it holds up.
Oh yeah, timeless. And they had such vision. And for the listener, we did reach out to all the original members, and they are just,
Were you able to get in touch with them? Any of them?
Gus wrote me back and he said, "Sorry, we're too busy writing new material." And
What?
oh my God,
Like,
I'm sure that's
head
not
in
true.
the game. I don't know. I think he was probably
Gus wrote you back. I'm pretty sure. I mean, last I heard that one of the Griggses, I can't remember which one, was at January 6th. And then of course, being Canadian, they were big players in the trucker convoy thing, and so I'm pretty sure the Griggs boys are not working on new material unless it's sort of a.
Maybe it's not music. Maybe it's something else.
Oh, yeah, that could be. Like a sort of a alternative healing pamphlets or something.
Yeah, brochures. Could be.
Yeah. No, last I saw, like, I actually saw Gus Griggs on the news, like in video of the insurrection, like in the Capitol. So I was like, that's him. I spent some time in Fort Lauderdale with that man, and that's him. He looked me right in the eyes, and he told me he would kill me. So, yeah. I don't think that they're writing anyone back. In fact,
That's messed up, man. That's weird.
well, people transform. Years have passed. I feel like we could sort of look back at this stuff and see the seeds of these shifts in there. So crazy to listen to a track like Hamburgers now, though, and just like the magic and idealism.
You have a copy of Hamburgers?
No, just my memory of it. It was like a cassette.
I tried to dig it up too. I couldn't find it.
It's definitely not online.
People like to say like everything's on the internet, but it definitely isn't. I mean, I might have the tape somewhere in my boxes, but I'll let you know if it ever turns up.
It was amazing. It was like, I don't even know, like Sonic Youth mixed with Elliott Smith. It was just incredible music.
But long too. It like had so many sections.
I can't speak to any of the weird stuff, January 6th or whatever, but I wish I could have recorded that band. You know what I mean, Phil? I wish I could have recorded Hamburgers.
Yeah, we tried.
Yeah.
We tried.
Yeah.
What we have is sort of like a shadow version, maybe.
Yeah.
Post-transformation.
That's a good way to look at it,
It's like Smeagol and Gollum.
Yeah.
That's a Lord of the Rings reference.
Oh, right.
Tolkien.
Yeah, I heard that's supposed to be pretty good.
Peter Jackson. Anyway, inside baseball there.
Which was your favorite bass player?
Scoop was good. I think that Danny was mostly there for like bass solos. He would sort of mostly just hold it live, at least. I mean, on the album, neither of them played.
Yeah,
I was
just gonna say that.
Oh yeah, you brought in some studio musicians.
Yeah, not exactly lightweights either. Some, I don't know how familiar you are with Florida, like bass players scene, but
one of the guys said he did a tour with Chick Corea.
One of the percussionists. I think it was the timbales guy.
Yeah.
I still have somewhere around here the rain stick from that session.
No.
Yeah, in my jam space.
That belongs in a museum.
Yeah, I'm holding on to it for eventually.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
I mean, it was on a lot of the tracks.
Actually, this is something that might be interesting to your listeners if we're still alive now. I don't know if we went over time, but I remember there were a couple of songs we tried to record. I think it would be generous to call them outtakes, but I remember there was one that sounded so much like diamonds on the soles of her shoes. Do you remember that? That we were just like, we were not in the position to dissuade them from bringing actually good material, but I remember that song was just so much of a rip melodically that you kind of squashed it in the studio. But maybe that
I just didn't want to get sued.
Maybe that explains a little bit what they were trying to do. Now that I think about it, maybe it wasn't that they were punking us. Maybe it was just like they want to move away from this heavy psych, you know, sound and do more of like a Paul Simon, Peter Gabriel, like world beat type thing. That's kind of interesting to think about in hindsight.
World beat, Paul Simon, Peter Gabriel is sort of a generous way to put it. You could also say
they don't
white reggae.
Yeah, they don't. I don't think they stand with those guys. And like I said, there was a bunch of crap they pulled that made me sort of uncomfortable. You know, I don't know whose ideas the dashikis were, but that was, you know, I don't know.
Yeah. It was kind of a different time.
It made me uncomfortable. Yeah.
I feel like even at the time, it was cringy and cancelable and
offensive. Offensive.
Yeah, I don't stand by a lot of those. Obviously, with the political transformations that those guys have undergone, it all kind of makes sense now. But oof, yeah, there was some appropriation happening.
Yeah.
I see bubble 203. You know me. I watch at night. Yeah, pirate flags, big balls in my bags, on my side, big golf balls in the mall. Yeah, dance with the cell phone, I'm tall. Yo, I got Cajun spices on my shelf, real lices in my hair, big bear, round, round. Look at me, I'm touching.
Get back, Jack, and listen to my rap and take it to the max. You know I got your back. I wanna see you naked. I wanna see you naked. Get back, Jack, and listen to my rap and take it to the max. You know I got your back. I wanna see you naked. I wanna see you naked. I wanna see you naked. I wanna see you, yeah. I wanna see you naked.
Well, I mean, I know that you guys are here to promote the deluxe vinyl reissue that's coming pretty soon here. Do you have anything you'd like to say about what, you know, the extras or the features? Because people are really hungry for this one.
It's in the works. I am going to try and find that Hamburgers tape, and sort of there's a few photos that we have that we'll include, like a zoomed in version of the photo. There's not much material, to be honest, but we're going to try and sort of pad it, if you will, with we're getting some essays, some like critical essays written. We've got what's his name, the astronomer. He's going to write.
Yeah, Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah, that's right. Neil's going to write a sort of retrospective about what their music meant to him and how it sort of factors in to his whole sort of worldview.
Yeah, he's probably one of their most outspoken fans.
Weirdly, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a whole other episode. But so he's been generous to sort of chip in with his participation in this coffee table book that comes with the vinyl. And not much more audio. I do have the stems still from those sessions, and you can hear a lot of the background chatter, and you can sort of piece together some of the violence that was in the air in the studio then, and that's interesting to hear. So I might be releasing that. And just the sheer musicianship of those unnamed Florida musicians that actually don't even have their names. I could dig out in my like invoicing systems to find who I billed or who billed me, but yeah,
The best part of the session, as far as I'm concerned, was just when those guys would jam.
Before the Squad Boys were even present.
Yeah, or when they were doing, hacky sacks or devil sticks or soda or whatever they were, those guys were just like kids in a candy shop. But watching the pros play, now that was a session I like to be a part of.
Cool to see. Yeah, cool to see.
Very,
I wish that was our
cool
band.
to see. And this is the first I'm hearing of the reissue. Phil, I wish you luck, but if you need someone to remaster it, I could use the work. So I'll tell you that right now on the air live.
Okay, that sounds good. I'll keep you posted if I dig up any of these tapes or any more materials. A lot
That would
of
be
them
awesome.
are old enough that the actual magnetic tape is probably breaking down. So I don't know if you have experience with
We bake
doing
them.
that kind of repair. You bake them. Okay,
You got to bake them, yeah.
okay.
And yeah, we're going to give away 5 copies of the reissue to the 5 best essays about the band Peace. Or Squad Boys, if you want to go even further back. And
There's a lot to say. There's a lot to say.
That is crazy to think that in this reality, I'm just spitballing here, but that there's people who were at the Brown Lantern. There were people who were at Van. There's a good chance that, indie rockers now in Vancouver were back then seeing Squad Boys. That just blows. It's not just me and you, Phil. That's kind of cool. It's kind of cool and it's kind of weird too.
Yeah. And
like for all we know, Nico Case could have seen a Squad Boys show. Maybe one we didn't even see. That just blows my mind that they could have seen it. Whether or not they liked it, and who knows if they did, but it's so weird.
I actually know for a fact that Nelly Furtado was at the Vancouver show.
No,
Remember?
no.
Fly Like a Bird.
Oh,
Yeah,
that makes
yeah.
sense.
That's a killer song. I wish I had been on that session. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
She was there. Well, I know. Yeah. Anyway,
That's amazing.
Long, complicated story there, but so yeah, people saw them. They were they made an impact in the Lower Mainland, and somewhat in the Anacortes. I mean, just that Brown Lantern show, and we did some shows together. We didn't really get into that, but they did. I played a couple of shows with them. I guess they called it a tour, but Mount Eerie shows, and then of course that time the infamous Pendleton, Oregon yacht show. That happened.
Everybody who was at that show eventually had a hit single. That's what they say.
It's one of those Velvet Underground type things.
Yeah.
Yep, it's true. Yeah, Pendleton, that whole Pendleton thing, like that whole, everyone, we don't need to talk about it, but yeah, everyone knows like the whole Pendleton sound, the Pendleton explosion from 07.
And by the same token, they say that everyone who saw Peace play in Ocala, Florida at Juicebox Jam walked away from music for life. I'm just teasing, but yeah, they all became CPAs. They said, "I'm done with this." I'm teasing. I'm teasing, of course, but yeah, they were not in great. Phil, I remember we were staying at the Wyndham and watching movie. I remember we were watching Wag the Dog, and great movies. I know you're a big Dustin Hoffman fan, but I remember in the mornings we would be down there for the Continental, and they would park their car or their van in the parking lot. I remember because they had the BC plates, and on the back I can't remember what it was. I think it was a Donovan sticker or something, but they used to come in and say, "Getting our kicks." Do you remember that? Getting our kicks. And
what was that? Was that like a Canadian TV show reference or something?
They would load up their plates, and the thing that I thought was so funny is they would take their full plates and trays. They wouldn't sit with us. They would walk right back out the lobby into the van. I never saw anything like it in my life.
It was bold. That's the type of like bold confidence that I'm talking about, that like gave me that sort of Bob Marley standing on stage with his shirt off energy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like walking into the Wyndham to just get eggs. It's not anyone can pull that off.
Well, not a lot of shirts in the studio, as offensive and appropriating as the dashikis were. At least they were putting clothes on, and
sure.
They were going in the right direction with their wardrobe, if you ask me.
Yeah, sure enough.
There's not nearly enough about this band. out there. So it's just really refreshing to be able to talk to people who were there and who, share some wisdom. So I really appreciate both of you for all that.
Yeah, my pleasure.
What are you guys most stoked about for summertime this year?
I'm excited about, hey, here's a reference for you. The Cajun food. I couldn't help it. You set me up for that one. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I think we did it. Unless there's anything else that we've left out.
I feel like I just wanted to underline that politically I don't stand behind the Griggs boys, and if you see them online and whatever they're selling and their subscription stuff and whatever I haven't kept up, but whatever you discover from them, that is not me anymore. I want to make it clear. I'm only reissuing this coffee table book and triple vinyl thing as a cash grab, basically. So
retribution.
I'm trying to sort of recoup from these sessions. And on the back end, the legal stuff, I'm good. I've got my cease and desist stuff with all 5 of them, and we should be good. But I just want to sort of draw a clear line between their Ottawa trucker convoy ideologies and my I don't believe in that stuff.
Yeah, I would just second that, and also just say artistically I don't stand by the album. I don't understand the music. I don't enjoy the music, and frankly I don't understand the music. It wasn't my thing, and I'm glad to hear your voice, Phil. I was thrilled to be back in touch. If you need any help with any engineering stuff, I'm happy to help or master your reissues. But yeah, it was a weird session. It was like I said, there were some. I liked staying at the Wyndham with you, Phil, and watching movies. It was fun. It was great to work with those session guys. But overall, I can't say I'm proud of the album.
Yeah, same.
Well, love you both.
Talk to you later.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Okay, well, that happened, and I'm Mark Lee Morrison. This has been the 72nd episode of Low Profile. My guests today were Phil Elverum, returning to the show, with his friend Matthew Fenton, the audio engineer, on their shared experience facilitating the 2006 album On Earth by the band Peace. For the first time in the history of this program, I have a rebuttal submitted by Matthew Fenton, so here goes.
Hi, this is Matthew Fenton. I'm confused, and I'm concerned about my friend Phil. We did not fly in a choir from Africa. The Griggs brothers were absolutely not part of January 6th. As far as I know, they live quiet and assuming lives in Alberta. There is no reissue of the album coming. I do not know why Phil embellished our time working with Peace in Florida, or contrived these stories about the fallout from the record release. In my opinion, the story is both interesting and sensational enough on its own. I don't know if Phil is still reeling from the brutal economic loss or stinging from frankly terrible reviews the Peace album received, but that's no reason to make an already strange story even stranger. I was caught off guard during the interview and remained silent. But I can't remain silent now. I wish Phil all the best, and while this statement may jeopardize our friendship, I have to set the record straight. I hope that ultimately he can let the past go.
Thanks for listening to Low Profile. Next time on the show, we have author Mike Stacks on the life and music of Craig Smith, aka Maitreya. Find all previous episodes of Low Profile at lowprofilepodcast.com and support the show directly via patreon.com/lowprofile.
We're just dipping on a day like never before. We're just dipping. We're dipping to settle the score. We're just dipping from the apple right down to the core. We're just dipping. Come on, let's dip some more. It's fun. We're just dipping. Move a groover. Just dipping. We're just dipping on a day like never before. We're just dipping. Yeah, we're dipping to settle the score. We're just dipping from the apple right down to the core. We're just dipping. Come on, let's dip some more. We're just dipping. Come on. We're just dipping. Just dipping. The circle of life. Let's try that again. Circle of life. In the circle of life. Move a groover.